ask you a couple questions about jail because we really haven't touched on it much, have we, yet?
Nah, we didn't.
Okay, cool. So what was your jail experience like?
One thing that you remember about going to jail is you will never forget the closing of those doors and closing of those cells. That's just one thing that'll never go away. When those doors close and when those cells go boom, that's something that you'll remember for the rest of your life, because that's a place that no one ever inspire on going to, or a place that no one ever wants to experience. So having somebody to tell you when to wake up, when to go to sleep, when you can eat, when you can take a shower, and just hearing those doors go doom or doom, that's an experience that you just never forget. It's not a good experience, strip searched, putting on clothes that you pretty much know somebody else wore, being in different holdings, from one holding cell to another holding cell to another holding cell. So being processed in and then being processed out, and then just having to spend whether it's years, days, months, in a cell with people you don't even know, you've never met before. So building a rapport and building a relationship with that particular person. But one thing that anybody will ever tell you about jail that you'll never forget, that sound will always be in your head, and that visuality would always come to mind of seeing that cell go boom, or that door go zzz, to where you locked in a room, or where you locked into a dormitory.
So what was it like living with Rob back in the day when you guys were kids?
Shit, it was like regular. That was my brother, it's like big brother, couldn't do nothing, you know what I'm saying? I looked up to him. For one, I looked up to him because he's my big brother. That's off the top. For two, he had that gift for gab. He had that aura about him, he was, whatever he was into or whatever he was doing, he was still a leader at whatever he was doing. He was never like nobody following behind nobody. He was always, taking care of his business the way he wanted to take care of it and doing it the way he wanted to do it. He was never really a yes man. So it was like, oh, okay, you could be affiliated to do whatever you want to do, but you could still be your own person at the end of the day.
Did you ever expect them to get out of the Peace Stones and stuff like that, turn over a new leaf and stuff like that?
Definitely not. When you get that deep into it, the different types of calibers of people, you know what I'm saying, that's affiliated, that's, it's like really like a family. So it's like hard, it's definitely hard to just leave a family that that you know basically all your life. But no, as far as it with me, I never thought that he would, just drop it like that cold turkey. But yeah, he did it.
Any people that stand out from your jail experience? Like any people that you made friends with, allies with, acquaintances, etc.?
A couple people, man. I kind of hung out with a lot of. I didn't hang out that much. I kind of got acquainted with a couple people. One of them is a friend today. You know what I'm saying? He was the guy that was into stealing cars and stuff like that. He was an old head, and we kind of still chop it up a little bit through Facebook, or maybe he'll text me or call me and say happy birthday, happy this, happy that. But yeah, it was a couple people. You know what I'm saying? We would go to church together in jail, and we would have Bible studies in our cells and stuff like that, and we got really acquainted and really cool. He was my cellie, and we would cook together. You can cook in there, so we would cook our noodles or our dips and stuff together, and we would hang out and talk. That's who I would hang out with pretty much the majority of the time. I had a couple other people, but like I say, it's jail, so people come and go. Sometimes they get transferred out to another facility, or sometimes they're with you and then they wind up getting banked somewhere else, or they go home. So they come and go, but it was one dude that was there my entire stint. We didn't get separated or anything. He was an old head, and we kind of connected, and it was pretty legit. He gave me some words of wisdom and stuff like that.
What were they?
Never give up on yourself. Never ever give up on yourself. and never judge yourself for the situation that you're in. Take it as a learning lesson. Look at life as a learning lesson. That don't beat yourself up about it. Don't turn back. Don't go back and using the same path that you have, but use this as a learning lesson to build on and use it as a story to tell others, to prevent others from winding up in the same situation I was in.
Let me redirect the question back to acquaintances. Was there anyone that gave you a hard time?
Nah, I didn't have a hard time, man. No, nope, not at all.
That's good. That's good. Mm-hmm. So how was the process of, how you got, I guess you could say, indicted or just prosecuted?
It was kind of disappointing, man. I thought that, when you in the streets and stuff, man, you think that you know it all. You think that you got it all. You think that, you know what I'm saying, you got this beat. So I was in the process of the court system, they wound up kicking in the door. And when they kicked in the door, I wasn't there. My crazy butt was riding past. And as I was riding past, I seen him in the house. But by me feeling like I'm not in the house, I can't be arrested for that. I can't be indicted for that. I wasn't there. So they can't prove anything. They didn't catch a physical body in the house. It wasn't nobody in the house. True enough, they put what they call an investigative alert out, and it was not a warrant, but it was like, hey, if you have any contact with this particular individual, let us know, because we want to talk to him, so they can either bring you in or they can let you go. So I got pulled over a couple times. They said, hey, just letting you know, you got an investigative alert out, but we don't care because it ain't us who got the investigative alert out for you. And so that just, it made me cautious. But with that mindset and that madness, I was still doing the things that I wanted to do. I was still selling drugs and not thinking anything. And then they finally caught up with me around the time my brother had got murdered. And around the time before my brother had got murdered, there was some things going on around my mama's house. And I'll never forget, I was picking my daughter and my son up from school, and I pulled to my mom's house, and we couldn't get in through the back door, so I had to walk around to the front, and the police was out there. They asked me my name. I told them my name, and they were like, oh, you the guy we was looking for. Wound up going to jail, being processed through the Cook County Jail. In that process, I wound up getting a blessing and getting out on house arrest, not having to pay no bond money, not having to do anything. And I wound up fighting that case. I fought that case for a while. They was trying to get me to cop out for a year in the Illinois Department of Corrections. I'm like, I'm not copping out for that. I wasn't in the house. I wasn't there. You can't do that to me, I got money. I could pay this lawyer. And I fought it. I was even willing to take probation for it. Fought it. And they wasn't giving up. And in the midst of me fighting it, I was still doing my madness and selling cocaine. And then boom, they kick in the door at another house. This time I'm in there and they get me. And so now I'm fighting 2 cases in front of the same judge. I wound up sitting in the county jail for 3 months, February, March, April, May. Got out in May, sat in there for 3 months fighting it. Then I got out on bond. And then I wound up fighting it for about another 2 years until the lawyer was just like, hey, look, I can beat this first one where you wasn't in the house, but I ain't gonna be able to beat this second one because both of them is in front of the same judge. They both the same case. So what you think a judge gonna think? Because they both in front of the same judge, both in front of the same case. 60-30, manufacturing and delivery of cocaine, which I thought I could fight it. And that's when reality sunk in. And I was like, man, I gotta go. I gotta take this time. Mm-hmm. My lawyer was able to go back and talk to the judge and state's attorney, and he was able to get me something where I only had to sit in jail for 100 and some days, opposed to years. They were offering me 6 to 30 years. I wound up, God, favor, grace, and mercy was on me. I wound up sitting in jail for 121 days.
Nice. Anything that stood out that you experienced throughout your time in there? First of all, where did you even end up?
I wound up going to NRC, which is in Joliet, right by Joliet, by Stateville Correctional Center. And from there I went to Vienna, Illinois Department of Corrections. What stood out most there is that I wasn't around my kids. I didn't have my kids. I didn't have my family. And that's what hurt the most. And what else really stood out is that those people who you thought were your friends and those people who you thought supported you and was with you from your A1 day one, not one letter, not no money on your books, not nothing. So those same people that was popping bottles with you, same people that was side by side selling drugs with you, same people that was doing whatever, who you going to parties with you and kicking it with you when you was on top. When you in that situation, you don't hear from them.
Okay. So if you had to sum it up in a couple words, couple phrases, sentences, what would you say to the people that are in situations that could be almost identical to yours, in that where they're out in the streets, they're selling drugs, they're manufacturing them, the same instances.
It's
basically.
only two things. It's only two things that can happen. I did it. I sold drugs for almost 10 years. A decade, almost 10 years. I sold drugs, and in that time frame of selling drugs, I always had this mentality that I'm gonna get rich off selling drugs. I'm gonna get rich off selling drugs. I'm gonna be able to buy these buildings. I'm gonna be able to do this and be able to do that. At the end of the day, it's just not gonna happen, because what tends to happen, no matter how much money you make, or how far or how on top you think you're gonna get, or what you're gonna think you're gonna end up being, it's gonna be something that's gonna pull you down. Whether you think the police is watching you or not, they're watching you. Whether you think your homies ain't gonna tell on you or not, somebody gonna tell on you. My advice to you is, if you in and you ain't been arrested and you put up a certain amount of money right now, turn it into something legal. That way you don't have to continue to do that lifestyle, to get out of it while you can, because it's either death or jail that's gonna happen to you eventually, because somebody gonna get jealous around you, they're gonna want to rob you and get what you got, or somebody gonna get jealous about you, they're gonna call the police and tell on you, or you're gonna slip up, or somebody gonna get caught coming from one of your houses where they're gonna wind up telling on you, and then you're gonna wind up in a legal situation where all the money you earned and all the money that you had, you're gonna have to use it for the lawyer, and then you lose your crib and stuff. You gotta find ways where you're gonna stay when you get out. So at the end of the day, is the risk worth the reward? And I don't think the risk is worth the reward. So my advice to somebody is just, look for a legal route, not an illegal route, because those roads don't lead to victory. Those roads lead to abomination. I mean, that's not the right word to use. Those roads lead to destruction, or something happening to you that you really don't want, especially if you got kids and family.
Were you always as religious as you are now?
Religious is a word that you really don't want to use, because
faithful then.
Yeah, because when you say religious, that means you strictly I'm that person that, I'm perfect, or that religious mentality. When I became more free, because the word says who the Son sets free is free indeed. When I became free from my previous lifestyle, I think that took place when I was in jail, and I had an encounter in NRC where I would literally pray and cry out every night. And then I had an encounter one night where I felt that the Spirit of God kissed me on my face in the midst of my prayer and wailing and crying, because I felt a peace that I've never felt before. I felt a comfort that I never felt before. I felt a strength and a boldness that I never felt before, that was able to push me through that process, because I was weak in that process. I couldn't believe I was there. I was just like upset. It was horrible. I felt it was just, wasn't for me. But in the midst of my my weakness, God gave me strength. In the midst of what I was going through, God was there, and He met me right where I was at. He began to order my steps in His Word. He began to become a hedge. You asked a question saying, did you have any encounters or anything with nobody? I feel that I didn't have any encounters, because God was with me. So if God be for me, who can be against me? And so I began to lean on my faith, opposed to leaning on the things that I had in the world. And I began to see a transformation in myself. And that's when I was able to write my first book, and was able to start on my second book, The Double Life, while I was in jail, because I had enough time now to actually just focus on God and the face of God.
Robert has an amazing gift of prayer, and even in everything that was happening and not believing in himself, I really want Robert to continue to work hard to reach his full potential.